Emmanuel, I'm glad to greet you here on our stand of Kazakhstan. Can you tell us about our Kazakh-French partnership that we started in this year?
We are very glad that we could start with Almaty Creative in June, thanks to the Eurasia Doc program dedicated to meeting for co-production in the documentary field. So it was really a great opportunity, and I think it went very well, although it was a big organization with a lot of foreign people coming from Europe and discovering Kazakhstan. So it was a very nice and well-tailored event in Almaty Creative at that moment. Now we are also working in the virtual reality, because we are very specialized in that field in France. We have a lot of studios, and French Institute has a catalog, and we work with this event Digital Autumn. So we will be glad to organize it in Almaty too, and it will be nice to be
yes, our new
together.
project in this month.
This new project for the next month, and then in the future, of course, we will improve our collaboration through the museum activities, through virtual reality, all media program dedicated to patrimony museum, and that can enable the relation between our experts from France and from Kazakhstan.
How much is our potential if we go to create some educational program together?
For the educational program, there is a big expectation. We work already with the school Rubica, but we can work with different schools and universities in Kazakhstan that are really open to collaborate. We can also rely on Erasmus Plus and on the will to create some courses together.
Oh, this will be perfect.
Yes. Thank
you. I will get to share our local delicious that we bring together, because here we want to share our potential and our hospitality. So please enjoy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shelpan.
So, Можно мы что-нибудь угостимся?
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Дана Виктаева, и в Казахстане я владею, наверное, самой большой, самой крупной коллекцией казахских ковров ручной работы. В моей коллекции больше 1000 ковров и около 1500 экспонатов. За годы занятиями коллекционированием я также занималась исследованиями смыслов древности казахской культуры. И, как оказалось, многие вещи, они, конечно, были зашифрованы также в коврах и сундуках. В нынешнее время очень многие креаторы, то есть те люди, которые хотят использовать наш национальный культурный код, наши узоры в каких-то новых изделиях, часто просто не знают основ казахской культуры и не знают конкретное применение тех или иных узоров, просто потому что забыты некоторые смыслы. Но люди прошлого это знали, и, конечно, в первую очередь для того, чтобы развивать креативную индустрию, надо провести, наверное, какой-то ликбез по пониманию основных смыслов нашей культуры. Вот. И я думаю, что когда в целом люди будут понимать предназначение тех или иных предметов, тогда и креаторы смогут зарабатывать лучше. И я думаю, что это будет правильно и хорошо сохранить наше наследие и развивать его дальше.
Education is becoming even more important, especially in what we call the growth of the knowledge economy. But it's also important to generate creativity in this educational process, particularly for young kids. Early childhood education has become super important. We have recognized that it lays the important foundation for learning at a later age. And so the earlier we are able to capture students and generate this creativity, the better. So that when they get to their teenage years, they are able to think in more critical ways, learn better interpersonal skills, understand diversity, understand issues like sustainable development. All of these are really critical pillars for the modern education system. The old model where we are getting young people to learn in very where we're getting young people to learn in very mimetic ways, where they are regurgitating a lot of information. Those days are really done. We need to be converting our education system so it generates more dynamic learning and learning where young people take responsibility for their own learning, as opposed to it being the responsibility of their teachers or the responsibility of their parents. So the more young people are able to take charge of their learning, the better it is.
Yeah, look, education itself, I think, is the most important tool we have to bring people out of poverty and also to solve all the problems we are facing. And particularly when it comes to problem solving, creative education and creativity and innovation is the most important. In fact, when the Global Creative Economy Council wrote an 11-point action plan to suggest to governments how they can develop the creative sector, point number 1 is investment in creative education at the earliest level. From kindergarten, playgroup, all the children are already creative and playing. But when they go into school, the teacher will decide, today you will learn English, tomorrow you will learn maths, then science, but there's no freedom, so creativity goes away. And we need to save and foster that creativity throughout the education, from schooling, high school, college, university. Creativity should be a part of everything. Even when big companies are looking for hiring new talent, they expect that the engineering degree graduate comes with creative ideas also. But when we teach creative education to artists and filmmakers, we don't teach them the business of movies and the economics and accounting. So this kind of integration of creative along with commercial has to happen together, and education should be holistic, and it should be integrated at every level.
Sure, it's really great to be here, and it's really lovely to see some of the people we met in Kazakhstan as well, here in Tashkent. And the conference has so far been great. I think it's really nice to hear, especially from people from Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan who are here, from Central Asia, about their experiences. Obviously, it's always important to have the official position from UNCTAD and UNDP and so on. But I think what's so interesting is how much activity is going on amongst the creatives and artists of this region in creating space, in creating opportunities for younger creatives, residency programs, and so on. And I think from my position as a member of the Global Creative Economy Council, it just really is fantastic to have insight into what's going on in Central Asia. It's not been an area that we've known about much, except for one of our partners is from Kyrgyzstan, and one of our members. So we've been hearing about Ololo and the programs that they have. But it's been really nice, to see it in person and to understand how it works, but also to understand all the various issues. So one of the things that we've been looking at in the Global Creative Economy Council is, apart from an 11-point plan, which is kind of an agenda that governments should be looking at for how to support a robust creative art sector, we're also very interested in understanding informality the fact that most of our sector is freelance, is atypical work, often very exploited. We give a lot of free labor. How do you keep the passion going? How do you empower people to find what they want to be doing with their artistic talent and their entrepreneurial activity? But also, what are the institutions that you need to support those people? So one of the big pieces of research we're now looking at is intermediary organizations, both public ones, private ones, NGOs, academics, and of course also public-private partnerships. And we're seeing many here. So we're seeing the beginnings of that institutional arrangement that really, it's not about government. Governments typically should just lay off what the creative economy is about and let the artists and the creatives lead the way. And the intermediaries buffer those informal, freelance, independent people from government, but also allow them to speak back to government with a single voice, or access finance, or access markets. So we really are exploring this idea of the role that intermediaries can play, not as a government-led initiative, but as from the bottom up, from the creatives.
It's very interesting. Can you tell us, is it Almaty Creative enough as an intermediate organization? But you can suggest us to become more leading in region and in our country, because it's also our, how you say, is our mission to help people and help government to understand each other and make beautiful collaborations.
Yeah, well, I think Almaty Creative is a fantastic organization, and I think, you know, it's one area in a very big country. Kazakhstan's a very big country, and what's interesting is to hear people who are working in other parts, in other regions of Kazakhstan. And one of the things that I was saying in a previous session was how important it is to really develop a knowledge of who's doing what, where, and how in each of the sectors, in the music industry, in the audiovisual industry, in the craft and handicraft sector, in the design sector, in the gaming or animation sector, in the performing arts sector, because then you start developing a knowledge and an expertise in the industry and how it works. The logic of each industry is very different, and the institutions they need are very different, and the support they need is very different. Some need grants, some need equity financing, some need property development, some need investor information, some need seed capital. So it's about really understanding, and that's something you can do from the ground up by working just with the people you know, to start asking them who else is in your sector, who do you work with, who are your suppliers, who do you sell your products to or your services to, so that you really understand the whole value chain from creation to production to distribution to exhibition to consumption. And mapping that out is something that the Almaty Creative can do to really start developing that knowledge, because without data, you can't rely on government to give you the data. In my country, we still don't have data from the government. We have to develop it ourselves. And based on that knowledge, you know where the gaps are. You know where the insertion point of intervention should go from your point of view. And also to say to government, what is your point of view? Because they're different. What you can do is different to what government can do. And we shouldn't wait for government.
Last question was very interesting. What was today your speech? Can you make our small summary?
Okay, so I didn't speak, but my group did speak. And what we did is presented what we call the 11-point plan. So the 11 points are about creative education and upskilling.
What is inside of this 11? Can you...
Exactly. So creative education and upskilling. The importance of education all the way from primary school to secondary school to tertiary education, informal education, lifelong learning as a creative, as an artist, not only in your artistic practice, but also in how does a sector work? What kind of forms of finance might you need? How do you write a business plan? How do you work with digital technologies? So that's the one. The one is about using digital technologies. We need a lot of skills, and we need to think about how do we use AI, for example, both to give visibility, but also protect our copyrights. We also talk about copyrights and intellectual property rights and why it's so important in the culture and creative sector to be protecting our work, especially in the digital environment, but generally also the wonderful sort of designs from Kazakhstan. How do you make sure that they don't get copied by somebody else and just flood the market and you lose your value like that? Another one is about cities and the importance of urban space and using arts and culture and creative economy to drive the ways in which a city is developed and to give some kind of soul to a city. The soul of a city comes from people, and those people are creative often and wanting to work together and agglomerate and have space. Another one is about intermediaries, the informality that happens in our sector and the fact of our working environment. Freelancers, atypical work can often be very exploitative. And so we need to think about, well, why is the sector so dominated by informality? And not to just push people to formalize, because not everybody wants to do that, but to think about how do you support those people. And one of the ways, one of the public policy responses is intermediary organizations. Another one is about international cultural sort of collaboration, what this event is doing. It's allowing us all to talk to one another in a language you can understand, because there's headphones for people who speak Russian, there's headphones for people who speak Uzbek. So it allows for that international cultural collaboration. So those are some of the 11 points that we need to think about. And it just gives a guiding principle also linked to the Sustainable Development Goals as to what we all could be doing in our different capacities, whether we're academics, researchers, creative hubs, industry associations, government, corporates, whoever we are, we can look at those 11 points and say, what is my role?
Привет, я Айка Алиме, я занимаюсь креативными индустриями, директор инкубатора Born Nomad. Мы помогаем творческим людям превратить их талант в бизнес, в бренд, в продукт, в стартап, в электронную коммерцию, в экспорт и сделать презентацию инвесторам. Сегодня я участвую в мировой конференции по креативной экономике. Меня вообще волнуют 3 вопроса, на которые я здесь ищу ответ. Во-первых, этот сектор недофинансирован, нам не хватает капиталов, нам не хватает кредитов, финансовой поддержки, инвестиций. Кредиты очень дорогие, это первая проблема. Вторая проблема: творческим людям, креативным предпринимателям нужны пространства, нам повышают аренду, нас выгоняют, и у нас нет места, где мы могли бы встречаться, вместе сотрудничать, коллаборироваться, находить точки соприкосновения. И третья проблема – это, конечно, низкий уровень образования у креативных предпринимателей. Они не знают про историю своей сферы, они плохо знают, как делать бизнес, как себя продвинуть, маркетинг, продажи. И также они плохо знают последние тенденции, которые существуют в их сферах. Сегодня на конференции я получила некоторые ответы, я познакомилась с людьми, с экспертами, которые тоже занимаются этими вопросами. И вообще классно, что креативный альянс креативных индустрий Казахстана участвует в форуме, в конференции, и мы нашли единомышленников, которые разрабатывают все эти вопросы. Креативная экономика – это такой вид экономической деятельности, где стоимость создается на основе интеллектуальной собственности, на основе идей, концептов, на основе движения души, сердца, на основе внутреннего мира и таланта творческого человека, будь то кино, музыка, мода, дизайн, архитектура, театр, балет, реклама, современное искусство и другие виды деятельности. Всего около 20 с чем-то подотраслей креативных. И креативная экономика отличается от традиционной экономики тем, что в традиционной экономике, например, как добывающая отрасль или перерабатывающая, там очень важны физические активы, оборудование, земля, сооружения. В креативной экономике важны идеи, важны нематериальные активы, важно следить за трендами и придумывать что-то оригинальное, свежее, не похожее на других, быстрее, чем другие. Поэтому в креативной экономике люди могут даже при помощи телефона создать компанию, создавать продукты, выходить на местные, на зарубежные рынки и успешно конкурировать, и получать доход, создавать рабочие места, вносить вклад в создание внутреннего валового продукта страны, развивать города, облагораживать районы, вносить вклад в развитие урбанистики и создавать статьи для экспорта, для электронной коммерции. Я 17 лет проработала в больших корпорациях, и мое первое знакомство с креативной экономикой произошло именно там. Я была финансовым директором Universal Music Group по СНГ, и в мое время мы делали такие проекты, как Алсу, Тату и другие проекты. Поэтому первая моя отрасль креативная, с которой я познакомилась, это музыкальная индустрия. Потом, после работы в больших корпорациях, я ушла и поступила на магистерскую программу по кинопроизводству в Main Media College, и там познакомилась с тем, как работает отрасль кино. Затем, уже еще учась в киношколе, я начала придумывать одежду, объекты, и занялась дизайном моды, дизайном объектов ткани и интерьера. Вот. И потом я начала писать журналы Forbes Казахстан, Elle Казахстан, и поэтому, в принципе, мне близка также индустрия медиа. Также я организовываю мероприятия, стала куратором фестиваля современного искусства Шымкент Art Days и Елге Оралу. Это музыкальный фестиваль, где я соединила казахскую оперу, народную песню с французским рэпом, джазом и диджейским форматом. Поэтому и тоже знаю, что такое индустрия мероприятий или ивентика.
Hi Tita.
Hi.
How was the conference for you?
The conference is really exciting. I'm glad to be here.
Can you tell us what was the summary of your speech? So we'll be glad to introduce to our audition about your idea team.
Right. Because I've been in several sessions, and most of us are really excited about the creative economy for the future and for the possibilities that can happen with the sector. One of the sessions that I'm chairing, it's about creative city and how actually creatives in a city can make changes. So they will have to work with all the sectors, with all the stakeholders of the city, and create a collective objective of the city, so they can work together.
What can you suggest for Almaty to increase creative industries?
Well, because I have seen a bit of Almaty, and it's really exciting that you have genuine, authentic, and incredible work of arts, creativity, culture, and you have a lot of initiatives that is bottom up. So you can actually make use of them by connecting more, because what you have is already like, this is good, this is really good, and so on. But if they're in separate places, then they need to be combined, and then you can make a strategy together using your creative potentials to at least have a near time target and the middle target and the future target of what you want it to be. And I think it's also important to connect positively to the government and the local government, especially to make sure that the policy can support this. And because the bottom people at the bottom, practitioners, are working on it anyway, while the government can change, policy can change, but at least you have things that can go together for your future.
Can you tell us how we can to become a next holder of Global Conference of Creative Industry? What we must do? We must communicate with the Indonesia government, or how it works?
Yes, if you want to be the host of World Creative Conference on Creative Economy, of course, at first you have to have the commitment of the your country leaders, and then you have to understand the requirements that every WCCE will bring the team from the previous one to the next one and building up on it, so not repeating the same session. And then there is international steering committee for the WCCE. I'm included in there, so we also work on the team together that has to do with the context of the host country. And then there's also a ministerial meeting, Friends of Creative Economy, where everyone can join. And then we always have to check that creative economy is really relevant for the future, and how would we implement it in order to make it impactful.
How long it takes process to give an attendee?
To give, sorry?
To become an attendee.
Oh, actually your government can already start talking to our ministry as well about your interest, and then usually we send a list of requirements of how you can do it, and then we can continue communicating.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very interesting. I'm glad to meet
I'm happy here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that this legend here with us, and I want to ask you about very important questions about education.
Go ahead.
Why we must do it with child? And
The important thing for me is learning. And the learning starts actually before birth in the womb. The child learns before being born. That's how we develop our brains. Intensive learning, creating new neurons and creating new pathways between neurons, very, 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 very fast. Parents look at their babies, and they look at their fingers and their toes and their smile, and they're amazed. But what's happening inside is even more amazing. What happens in the imagination is even more amazing. And learning is the process whereby you understand more about the world and you react to it. And you store knowledge. And that goes on intensively in the first few years. And then everybody goes to school. And a different learning takes place. A learning which is driven by adults. And you have to behave, sit in rows, speak correctly, speak when you're asked, shut up when you're not asked. And education sometimes, schools and universities sometimes forget to teach people how to learn, to encourage learning. They want to put in knowledge into people's heads, and that's good. That's a very, very good thing. That's a very good function. But sometimes people can come out of school, come out of university, come out of the education system without the capacity to learn through their adult life. If they lose that capacity when they're in school, then very seldom get it back. And the creative people, artists of every sort, they're always learning. Every good artist is always learning how to do things better. And if they stop learning, they stop developing as an artist.
yeah, of course.
So to me, learning is the context of the creative life.
Yes.
And education is one way, usually regulated and paid for by government. It's only one section. It's a very, very, very important section.
Yes.
But it's within that context of how we learn.
Thank you. Thank you so much that you are here, that you are on our stand. What do you think about our stand?
I think your stand is beautiful. I think your stand is beautiful. You had some beautiful things there before. I think your stand is beautiful. You have lovely cakes and coffee.
Yeah. We want that people try our national food.
So
it's more.
if you give people food and coffee and tea, they will come.
Yeah.
And you do that. So, thank you very much. Thank you.
Всем добрый день, меня зовут Бауржан Шадибеков, я являюсь генеральным директором IV Fashion Almaty, IV Fashion Ташкент, основателем конкурса молодых дизайнеров Next Designer Awards Empowered by Visa. Мы сейчас находимся на 4-й Всемирной конференции по креативной экономике в Ташкенте, в Узбекистане. Вчера я выступал на панельной дискуссии «Дизайн-код Центральной Азии», где мы обсудили про культурный код, какой же он культурный код Центральной Азии. Я очень рад находиться здесь и призываю поддерживать культурный код локальных брендов Узбекистана, Казахстана, продвигать их, как мы, на международном проекте, как IV Fashion Almaty, IV Fashion Ташкент. Сейчас мы видим возрождение культурного кода в коллекциях дизайнеров. Да? Мы видим, как локальные дизайнеры Центральной Азии возрождают эту национальную идентику, этническую идентику. Мы очень рады поддерживать, продвигать дизайнеров и очень рады быть причастны к такому большому событию, как креативная экономика, форум по креативной экономике. Я призываю поддерживать дизайнеров, локальных дизайнеров, покупать, продвигать и носить их. Если мы не будем поддерживать, то никто не будет поддерживать наших локальных дизайнеров и креативную индустрию.